Next Wednesday, it begins.
Our quest to find Australia's most gifted psychic.
Whether you're a believer or a skeptic.
He didn't get it. He didn't get it.
Who will be the one? The search for Australia's most gifted psychic begins.
That's the real thing.
Next Wednesday on 7.
Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Oh, yes. Yes. It starts this Wednesday, folks. This Wednesday, the one here in Australia on Channel 7, 7:30 this Wednesday, the 5th of October. It's the TV show starring yours truly, Richard Saunders, as the skeptical judge. Oh, the skeptical judge. Will I be skeptical enough? That's the question. If you're in Australia and you want to have a bit of a laugh, tune in for Channel 7, the one this week. And you'll see what I look like, because I had an email a while back from somebody, a listener, who thought I had a beard, because they didn't see a picture of me. That's very interesting. No, I don't have a beard. Glasses, though. Yes, glasses. Got all my hair. It's a bit grey, but I don't have a beard. This is Richard Saunders talking to you from Sydney, Australia, for the Skeptic Zone, episode number 154 for the 1st of October, 2011. And what a great show we've got lined up for you this week. I speak to Dr Síle Lane from Sense About Science in the UK. Sense About Science. This is a wonderful website and a great opportunity for everybody to get more information about science. And if you've got scientific type questions or confusion, this is the place to go to. senseaboutscience.org is the website. The Twitter is at senseaboutsci, S-C-I, senseaboutsci. Certainly worth following on Twitter. Dr Síle Lane will tell us all about what they do at Sense About Science, their outreach and their service to the public. And it's something we at the Skeptic Zone certainly support. Following that interview, we have Peter Bowditch from Australian Skeptics and ratbags.com with a little piece he wrote about his efforts to be heard on various anti-vaccination forums. A very interesting piece that he wrote. And after that, it's Dr Rachie Reports, reporting about a strange new collaboration, it would seem, between the Pharmacy Guild and the Blackmores company here in Australia. Something Dr Rachie and many people aren't very happy about. And to round off the show, it's Dr Rachie again taking part in a television spot report all about, our old favourite ear candles. Now, this was a report filed on the TV show Today Tonight on Channel 7, and to make things perfectly clear, I do have a commercial agreement with the 7 network, of course, being on that network as on the TV show. However, our good friend, reporter Frank Pangello at Today Tonight in Adelaide was looking after this story, and he's done a lot of good skeptical stories, I must say, from ear candles to homeopathy to the power balance. So good on you, Frank. That audio from that report about the bizarre world of ear candles will round off this episode of the Skeptic Zone. Thank you to those people who have been donating to the Skeptic Zone. You might remember we have a little bit of a drive on at the moment to help get our reporter Maynard. We're trying to get him to TAM 10 in Las Vegas, which is in July 2012. Might be the last TAM too, because if the world ends at the end of 2012, no, it's another story. If you want to help get Maynard over to TAM, run to www.skepticzone.tv and click the link, and you can, for $1 a week, that's it, just $1 a week, help the Skeptic Zone and help get Maynard over to TAM 10 to get lots of interviews for you to enjoy. But right now I'm going to run downstairs and I'm going to enjoy a nice hot cup of ginger tea and some gingerbread, and maybe a ginger snap, and anything else ginger. And let you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. And I'm delighted to say I have Dr Síle Lane on the line all the way through the wonderful internet from the UK. Hello, Sheila.
Hi, Richard. Hi.
Now, I've been looking at Sense About Science website, and I must compliment whoever put it together. It's a really slick, professional-looking website, but there are lots of professional-looking websites out there. But, of course, the important thing is the content behind the slick-looking website is very important, and I must also congratulate you on that. How important is it for an organisation like Sense About Science to have a good web presence, do you think?
Oh, well, it's very important. Thank you very much for your very kind words. We've worked very hard on this website. It's quite new. We're just moving into it, so we're certainly open for hearing any feedback we can on it. So everybody should let us know what they think. You'll find our details on the website. It is, of course, it's important. It's the main way we communicate with most of our supporters is through our website. People come to our site for all sorts of different reasons. We have many, many different kinds of audiences, like journalists and individuals and organisations and groups that we work with who come to the website for all sorts of different reasons and to find different things. So it's crucial for us that the website is clear and explains who we are, what we do, very quickly and easily, so that everybody knows what different things they can get from us once they get there. So I'm glad you like it. We've worked hard on that. I
really do. It's a lovely, slick design, but it's very intuitive. And everything that you sort of want to know quickly is right in front of your face, which is really great. A big About Us link and what the work is you do. And I'm very impressed. I clicked on the publications link, and I was very impressed indeed about the matter of free material you have on there, ready for eager young people like me ready for eager people like me and young people around the world to download. And I was taken by one of the PDFs there. I've got nothing to lose by trying it.
Absolutely. We published that in 2008 with some neurological charities such as the MS Society over here and Parkinson's UK. It was in response to rising reports from these groups that we work with of miracle cures and unproven treatments being promoted online for chronic diseases such as MS and Parkinson's. And we worked with them to produce I've Got Nothing to Lose by Trying It, which is a guide to weighing up claims about cures and treatments for long-term conditions. We called it I've Got Nothing to Lose by Trying It because talking to these groups of patients and these people who are suffering from these diseases, we realized that that's where people kind of end up. When you get a diagnosis of a chronic condition, you have a diagnosis, but you know that you're not going to get a cure. It's something you're going to have forever, and all you can do is try and live as best you can. And you find yourself in that place where friends and relatives, very well-meaning people, are coming to you every day with clippings from newspapers or ads for products they've seen on the internet saying, why don't you try this, why don't you try this? And you kind of think, well, yeah, I suppose I've got nothing to lose by trying it.
Absolutely
so the guide is to help those. Yeah, it's a very tough place to be. So this guide was to help people with the tools so they can answer those well-meaning friends and family who come to them and make sense of the things that come across themselves being promoted on patient websites. One of the problems that those groups and that we at Sense About Science have been struggling with for a while are things like people pretending to be patients, going onto patient support forums, promoting products and saying, oh, this works for me, it's absolutely amazing, promoting all these dodgy treatments that they themselves are manufacturing. And there's sort of kind of two ways you can respond to that. You can either ask the patient groups to police every posting on the support forum and check every link and check the validity of everything that's been talked about, which probably wouldn't work even if anybody actually wanted to do that. Or, and we think the only solution, the better solution, and maybe the only solution, is to take the people being preyed upon and help them, give them the questions to make sense of things and help them deal with things for themselves.
It's an old tale. And when you're in the skeptical industry, you've certainly heard about this tale before. It works for me, you should try this. My mother swore by this. Look, don't listen to the doctors. try this treatment, and on it goes. In fact, our very own Loretta Marin, very famous in Australia, known as the Jelly Bean Lady, who was a breast cancer sufferer, was bombarded with all sorts of, well-meaning to a large extent people, suggesting that she try this, that, and the other. And people do lose their lives, of course. We know when they give up tried and true methods and pursue some of these. So I'm very glad you've got that PDF there with good advice for everybody. But my goodness me, what a list of other resources you have. Detox, you've got things about detox, making sense of chemical stories there, testing, screening, radiation, GM. It just goes on and on and on. A fantastic... standing up for science. Now, that looks like an interesting download. It must give you great heart to be able to distribute such good information about science out to the world.
Absolutely, it is. I love working for Sense About Science. We're a charity, so we're a small organisation. We're 8 full-time employees at the moment. All of us have science backgrounds, but have moved out of the lab or out of academia to work for the charity. Our tagline, our raison d'etre, is to equip people to make sense of science and evidence. And we do this with the help of a database of 5,000 and more expert specialists in almost every field of science and medicine and engineering that you can think of, who volunteer their time and help us and support our aims, as well as science bodies and professional and learner societies and civic groups as well over here in the UK and internationally as well. We respond to the misrepresentation of science and scientific evidence on issues that matter to society. And we do that by working with these scientists and civic groups to share the tools and insights of scientific reasoning with the public. We've been working with scientists for years and years challenging misinformation, whether it's about homeopathy, for example, for malaria, or the age of the earth, or causes of cancer, or health implications of Wi-Fi radiation. Yeah. And it's been very effective. And we've produced all of these documents responding to misinformation and misconceptions in particular debates about particular contentious subjects or controversial subjects, and it has been effective. But we've kind of got to the point now where we're realizing as soon as we turn our back on an issue, or as soon as attention isn't being paid on some issue, then misleading claims creep back up into discussion again. And even where there are regulators in areas like advertising and trading standards, for example, they're overworked and they're overwhelmed, and people get away with making misleading claims or claims not based on good evidence just by making little tweaks, and problem claims keep cropping up again and again and again. So we know that it's time to try and really make a permanent difference. So that's why last week we launched a campaign called Ask for Evidence.
Yes, the Ask for Evidence campaign, and if people go to the website, which is, of course, senseaboutscience.org, they can download a little button they can put on their own website, which will bring people to the good information. Yes, and we want as many people as possible to see what we're up to and to hear about our campaign, because that's the only way to make a permanent difference, is to get more and more people challenging misleading claims when they see them, by asking the advertisers or the companies or the government bodies or other organisations for the evidence behind their claims. Yes, and looking at the website here, the web page for Ask for Evidence, you have got, what do we say, a bevy of stars, a celestial realm of true scientific stars who are really, really getting behind this Ask for Evidence campaign.
That's right. We have a galaxy of stars on our website.
Thank you. A galaxy. That's what I was looking for.
We have some of the top scientists in the UK are supporting this campaign, including people like Sir Paul Nurse, who's the head of the Royal Society over here, and many of the really high-profile scientists that we work with, who, of course, want people to always ask for evidence and get to the evidence behind claims. But we also have support from people like Darren Brown. I'm not sure how big Darren Brown would be in Australia, but he's
very, very famous down here. Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. He's a great guy. He's and you know who he is, I don't need to tell you. And you know that he's a champion of giving people the questions to get behind appearances.
Yeah.
And he's always trying to help us understand when something that looks like it's not a coincidence actually is, and those kind of questions. He's fantastic at that, and he's always been a supporter of ours. We also have people, high-profile names here, like Jonathan Ross, who's a presenter, and Dara Breen and Ed Byrne, who are comedians, who support what we do and aren't just there just to add big names and, a bit of glitz to our campaign, but they're there because they really believe this. They have always been champions of getting people to ask questions and not to be fooled and to help vulnerable people make sense of things. They're all really, really great people. As well as those individuals, we're really pleased that dozens and dozens of organisations are getting on board and supporting the campaign and telling their audiences that it's time to ask for evidence. Organisations like patient groups, all sorts of different patient groups, civic society organisations, consumer organisations as well, which is fantastic, are encouraging all their audiences to ask for evidence for every claim they see.
And of course, one of the notable people you have supporting you is a very good and mutual friend of ours, Simon Singh.
Simon is fantastic, isn't he? He's a science writer and broadcaster and skeptic. He's a member of our board of trustees, actually, so we work very, very closely with Simon on an awful lot of things. And he's fantastic.
He is indeed. He's a good man. I've met him on several occasions here in Australia, where he actually spoke for us last year at the amazing meeting in Australia, and it was a pleasure to have Simon.
Lovely. Good.
And of course, he's famous for something else which is very dear to the heart of Sense About Science, which is the libel situation, the libel laws.
That's right. He was sued for libel for asking for evidence, I guess, for the claims that some chiropractors were making for being able to treat certain childhood conditions. So he wrote a book called Trick or Treatment with Professor Ed Ernst, and he wrote some articles in newspapers at the time of the launch of the book about the evidence for lots of different complementary and alternative treatments. And then a body of chiropractors sued him for libel. They didn't take up the newspaper's offer of a right to reply. They didn't engage in open debate and scrutiny, which is what scientists and all of us as citizens and voters should demand from public debate. They sued him and they tried to silence what he was saying. And we were appalled by that, and we publicised his case and launched a campaign called Keep Libel Laws Out of Science. And we were absolutely astounded by the number of scientists and authors and journalists and just individuals who contacted us and told us, I could have been in the same situation. I could be dragged through the courts. Someone threatened me with libel for something I put on my blog, or an article I wrote for a magazine never got published, or a paper I submitted to a peer-reviewed journal didn't get published because of fears of libel threats. So we realised with growing horror just how widespread the silencing from legal threats was across the scientific and medical community and across society more widely as well. So we campaigned very, very hard to change the outdated and unfair libel laws of the UK to protect public interest, really. These kind of discussions about science and medicine and treatments and products and companies and organisations and people in power. And the government listened to the support to our 55,000 supporters and, again, high-profile names who joined that campaign, and published a draft legislation to reform the libel laws, which at the moment is going through scrutiny in the UK Parliament and will be debated in Parliament over the next year or so. And hopefully will be legislation by May of 2012. So we're very, very excited that that's happening. We're still very, very busy on the Libel Reform Campaign, scrutinising the government's legislation and making sure that parliamentarians and MPs and peers know that this is an issue that there is enormous support behind from the scientific and skeptic community especially. So we're still out there representing and campaigning for our libel reform, but it's a very exciting time for us.
It is an exciting time when you can see what good old-fashioned grassroots activism can accomplish. And I know it's frustrating for all of us much of the time, especially when you're hitting your head against the wall fighting ridiculous laws, or, as you say, people tweak claims and they get away with all sorts of things. So we're always, you and I and all our colleagues around the world are always chasing this sort of thing. But I must say that you are having some good success, which gives us all heart. And another part of your website that interests me quite a lot is the Voice of Young Science. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The Voice of Young Science, or VOICE for short, network is it's a loose network. It's not anything that formal, but it's a group of a couple of hundred young scientists and researchers and junior doctors and medics who want to get involved in this kind of evidence hunting as well. They came together originally from participants in our Standing Up for Science workshops, which are kind of media workshops where we encourage and help these young researchers get involved in debates about contentious issues and react when they see science or evidence being misrepresented in the media or in product claims or by politicians, helping them with the tools to get out there and write letters to the newspapers, write to the politicians, get on the radio, encourage them to do that. After the first couple of workshops that a couple hundred of these young scientists attended, they wanted to stay in touch. They wanted to band together, and there's more power in numbers, so they wanted to work together on their evidence hunting projects. So they formed this loose network called the Voice of Young Science, and they have done some amazing things. Just a handful, not that many more than a handful of young scientists and researchers have done some fantastic things. Like a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, they saw there was going to be a conference in Amsterdam on homeopathy in the developing world, and they were appalled that when they realized that homeopathy and unproven things like that were being promoted all around Africa as cures and treatments for things like infant diarrhea and malaria and HIV and AIDS. They were absolutely appalled that people were very vulnerable people in the developing world were being conned into using these unproven treatments and encouraged not to use conventional medicine at the same time. They were absolutely appalled. When they looked into it a bit further, they were even more shocked to find that bodies like the World Health Organization weren't doing anything about this. They weren't taking a stand. They weren't doing much to help people on the ground in Africa who were trying to combat this, who were trying to make sense of this for themselves, and the medics down there who were trying to combat the alternative treatments that are being promoted. People who weren't doing anything to help them. So the young scientists working together wrote to the heads of all these different disease sections in the World Health Organization and got them all to condemn the promotion of homeopathy for serious diseases in the developing world. For the first time, they got the World Health Organization to take a stand on that and to make very strong statements against it, which was an absolutely amazing thing for a bunch of young scientists to do. So that was absolutely fantastic, and we're so proud of them. They're just brilliant.
That is so encouraging. That is so encouraging. And of course, the young scientists will turn into slightly older scientists, and throughout their career, they will not, I'm sure, will not give up and will be continually fighting the nonsense and the quackery that we see out there. And what a fine cause is to nip it in the bud, hopefully, as it were, in such places as Africa.
That's right. I mean, what you said earlier is absolutely true. There were lots of individuals like yourselves and organizations and groups out there who could make it their life's work, tracking down the activities of one individual or one company or reacting to one claim for the rest of their lives. But things keep popping up again and again and again, even despite the brilliant work that all these groups and people are doing. And we think we can't rely on just the fairly small sector of society that includes us that is doing this just now. We don't want to have to do it for the rest of our lives. I'm sure you don't either. So that's why we need so many other people, the people who aren't aware of your and my work and our work, to hear about this and to start asking for evidence, because you don't need to be a scientist to ask, penetrating questions about evidence. You don't have to be an epidemiologist to get to the bottom of claims about mobile phones and cancer. You can ask whether there's evidence for a claim about that, how conclusions have been reached, what kind of tests have been done, were they fair tests, whether the results are peer-reviewed and published, whether they've been replicated, what other scientists are saying. Those kind of questions that people who don't naturally see themselves as scientists or as skeptics can use. And we know they really can use those kinds of insights that, as I said, that, for example, something is science when it's being scrutinized by other scientists and published in a journal, then you know that it has been scrutinized. And it's at least one step up from someone's opinion or some research someone has done in a shed in the back of their garden and never published. Those kind of simple questions. Has it been peer-reviewed? It's at least a first step of making sense of these claims. And everybody can use those.
They can indeed, and yours is the site that keeps giving, because people can even click a button right near the top of your site that says Get Scientific Advice.
They can indeed. We have a database of 5,000 and more specialists from, every field you can think of, from Nobel Prize laureates down to young researchers, PhD students and postdocs in all the fields you can think of, including some of the top scientists in the UK and members of the most prestigious organisations over here, who are willing to help people out, help people do this. Anybody can phone us with a question on any kind of scientific or medical topic, and we'll do our very best to help them out, to get them the answer, working with our database, with our huge invisible support behind us. We'll do our very best to answer everybody's questions.
What a fantastic service you have. What a fantastic opportunity for our listeners to take advantage of this. And the website is, of course, senseaboutscience, one word, .org. Dr. Síle Lane, congratulations again on a wonderful site which is put together very well indeed. But more importantly, what's behind that site, the science and the willingness to help, to outreach, I think really puts that site above many I've seen. So congratulations very much, and all success to you.
Thank you so much. It's been really lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Hey bro.
Oh, hey bro, what's up?
Check it out. Finally, a Back to the Future invention that has come into existence. I present to you the hoverboard.
Dude, that's a BS band skateboard deck from the Eshy skateboard.
Yes, a skateboard without wheels.
Yeah, you're supposed to buy your own wheels and bolt them on.
And look, it has a placebo band right here in the packaging. That must be what powers it.
What are you on about?
That's right, your very own hoverboard. And SkepticBros.com has one to give away. Go to SkepticBros.com and click on the comp tab for more details.
You know that's a skateboard deck, right? Not a hoverboard. It doesn't actually fly.
You go get the car. I'll get my Michael J on, hold onto the bumper, and float down the freeway.
Sure, why not? That could be fun.
Here is Australian Skeptics Committee member Peter Bowditch talking about his efforts to be heard on various anti-vaccination forums. And remember, you can check out Peter's website at www.ratbags.com.
Meryl Dorey of the Australian Vaccination Network has a long history of intolerance towards anybody who disagrees with her in forums that she controls. I've been banned from the AVN's internet mailing list since 1999, despite never posting anything to the list. I joined because I'd been told that I was being defamed there. More recently, Ms Dorey has blocked me from following her on Twitter, blocked me and many other people from commenting on the AVN's Facebook page, and refused to publish dissenting comments on 2 blogs that she runs for the AVN. Ms Dorey has stated on several occasions that she welcomes debate and discussion as long as it is polite. Politeness is why I always refer to Ms Dorey as Ms Dorey and resist the use of terms such as total slime, an expression she used to describe me at one time in a forum when I had no right of reply. She has now created yet another forum, this time at Google Groups, with the title Vaccination, Respectful Debate. The description of this group says, "This is a place for people from both sides of this very polarised vaccination debate to meet and discuss the issues concerning vaccine safety, efficacy and necessity. All viewpoints are welcome provided they are respectful." It then goes on to say, "At the first sign of abuse, name-calling, etc., you will be banned." So perhaps this might be somewhere where I can appear without being called names or accused of being a shill for Big Pharma. Or perhaps at a place where I can get banned very quickly. I decided to again test Ms Dorey's commitment to free and open speech, so I joined the list. I didn't post for a few days, so I missed the kudos of being the first person to be banned. That went to my friend Peter Tierney, who dared to question the warnings that were given to some people. I finally made my first post, and somewhat to my surprise it managed to make it past the moderators. Unnamed, but there are 2 of them, and they're not in the pro-vaccine camp. Here is what I had to say. Hello all, my name is Peter Bowditch. I have a long-term interest in the vaccination debate, and I welcome the chance to participate in a forum where the evidence for both sides can be respectfully presented. While I believe that a case can be made for compulsory vaccination for people in certain occupations, healthcare being the obvious example, I support the idea that for most people it should be an informed choice. The critical word is informed, and that is where people have to be careful. There is a vast amount of information about the safety, effectiveness and possible side effects of vaccines available. Some of it is based on science, such as the information freely available from the websites of Immunise Australia, the Centres for Disease Control and the World Health Organisation, for example. And for those who are not afraid of reading scientific papers, the National Institute of Health's PubMed database. Some of the information is based on emotion, misinterpretation or misunderstanding of the science, or simply an inability to distinguish between good science and bad. Some of it is based on dubious science and even the occasional piece of fraudulent research, such as the discredited and now withdrawn 1998 paper in The Lancet by Andrew Wakefield. Some of it is so out of touch with reality that it could be material for research into mental illness. What concerns me most, however, is the information which keeps getting repeated, even though it is relatively simple to demonstrate that it is false. The fact that some of this gets repeated by people who have been told, sometimes on several occasions, that it is false and have been offered their refuting evidence suggests that they are simply working to an anti-vaccine agenda, and truth does not matter to them because the end justifies the means. Here are just 5 of these continually repeated untruths. Number 1. Vaccines contain parts of aborted fetuses. It is true that in the manufacture of some vaccines a cell line is used which was derived from the lung cells of a fetus aborted in 1962. It was a legal termination undertaken to save the mother's life, and the mother donated the fetus to science. Attempts have been made to claim that Catholics, for example, should therefore refuse to use these vaccines. In 2003, the Vatican issued a ruling on this matter, making it perfectly acceptable for Catholics to use these vaccines on the basis that they had an overriding responsibility for the health of their own children and for those that they came in contact with, not just their own children. Number 2. Polio was not reduced by the introduction of vaccines, but has simply been renamed. The obvious absurdity of this is apparent to anybody who lived through the early 1950s. If polio is still present, then where are the calipers on children's legs, and where are the iron lungs? When I asked a prominent anti-vaccine campaigner for evidence of this, I was pointed to a reclassification for statistical categories in 1956, where the CDC ruled that paralysis had to last for 60 days for a case to be recorded as paralytic polio. It was not a renaming of anything, it was a refining of the way cases were reported. Yes, polio still exists, though not in places like Australia, which have comprehensive vaccination programs. The main barrier to worldwide eradication seems to be nonsense spread by religious fanatics. Number 3. Vaccines have never been tested in clinical trials. The largest clinical trial in the history of medicine in terms of numbers of test subjects was the trial of the Salk polio vaccine, with about 500,000 subjects. Clinical trials for Gardasil and Rototec both included more than 30,000 test subjects. At the time of writing this, PubMed returns 19,352 papers for the keyword search vaccine clinical trials and 9,681 for vaccine safety. Calls are sometimes made for placebo-controlled trials of vaccines, but there are significant ethical problems with deliberately exposing subjects to deadly or disabling diseases. In extreme cases of fear-mongering, the lack of crossover trials is pointed out. As a crossover trial would require subjects to have their vaccination status removed partway through the trial, it is obviously impossible to do this sort of test. People requesting it either do not understand how scientific research works, or are deliberately creating a situation where they can say, this hasn't been done. Number 4. Vaccines are injected into the bloodstream. Nothing more needs to be said about this than no, they are not. If someone tells you this, then you should immediately correct them. If they persist, then you know that they don't. You don't have to listen to anything more that they have to say. No disease has ever been wiped out by vaccination. Smallpox, rinderpest in cattle, with measles and polio on the horizon. The horizon gets pushed away at times by either opposition to vaccination or nonsensical minimisation of the harm these diseases do. I look forward to a rational, respectful discussion of both the considerable advantages and the small risks of vaccines, and I hope we can avoid nonsense like the things I have mentioned above. Nobody ever said that vaccines are 100% safe, because nothing is. Anybody who says that vaccines are 100% unsafe is wrong, because the billions of vaccinated people with no effect are evidence against the claim. There are risks associated with vaccines, but those risks are small and the benefits are great.
Jeg er Marit, og jeg er Kristin, og vi vil tipse deg som norsk lytter av Skeptic Zone om skeptikermiljøet i Norge. Det finnes norske blogger og pubtreff og podcast, og foreningen Skepsis driver med slikt som disse du hører på nå.
Sentralt skepsis.no, og her publiseres det dyptgående artikler, en kalender over aktiviteter og lenker til nyttige ressurser.
Skepsis-bloggen oppdateres jevnlig, og det diskuteres heftig på forumet, så stikk innom og delta du også.
Skepsis.no.
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachel Dunlop.
Hello listeners, I'm coming to you from Melbourne today, where it is pouring with rain, and it is the AFL Grand Final, which is the Australian Football League Grand Final. Now obviously I'm not watching it because I'm recording this segment for you, so welcome to Dr. Rachie Reports. This week I tell you a tale about pharmacists, Blackmores, and would you like to supersize your statins? The story begins that pharmacists are amongst the most trusted professions in Australia, regularly coming in the top 10 of the annual Reader's Digest survey, alongside paramedics, firefighters, pilots and assorted medical professionals. Which makes me even all the more frustrated to hear about a new partnership between the Pharmacy Guild of Australia. Now this is the body which represents about 94% of Australia's 5,200 pharmacies, and Blackmores, Australia's largest manufacturer of supplements, vitamins and CAM. Now, the partnership aims to upsell supplements to customers when getting a prescription filled. So basically, when you go to get your prescription filled for, say, statins or antibiotics, the pharmacist will be prompted to offer you a matching companion product from Blackmores. So according to an article in Fairfax, under the arrangement, when a prescription is filled, a prompt in the pharmacist's computer will remind them to discuss a particular Blackmores product with the patient. Patients will also receive a personalised professional leaflet giving information on why this companion drug is appropriate. The scheme has been endorsed by the Pharmacy Guild of Australia and will be available in pharmacies from October. As an aside, I came across an article yesterday that said Commonwealth Bank analysts also supported this scheme. I wonder why that is. So Christine Holgate, who's the CEO and Managing Director of Blackmores, told Pharmacy News, and this is what's caused all the furore, that the range gave Blackmores the opportunity to provide the Coke and fries for these pharmaceutical medicines, whilst also providing a new and important revenue stream for community pharmacy. The scheme has been thoroughly condemned by pharmacists across Australia, and they're particularly offended by the use of this term Coke and fries. Their assertion is that this infers that their professionalism, their trust amongst the community and their qualifications are pretty much up for sale and are worth no more than upsizing your prescription with Coke and fries. So the Pharmacy Guild, who's behind the scheme, has denied that it is commercially motivated, but the president told Pharmacy News that the deal represented, quote, a huge opportunity for the male market, since males don't like visiting doctors and pharmacists are someone that they don't mind seeing. Whether he cares to admit it or not, it doesn't take a genius to figure out this scheme is potentially very lucrative, hence the Commonwealth Bank analysts thinking it's a good idea. Particularly when the new line of supplements are designed to be paired with prescriptions for statins, antibiotics, antihypertensives, and proton pump inhibitors for gastrointestinal disorders. And all of these are very popular pharmaceuticals, which constitute more than a third of the 184 million scripts dispensed in Australia every year. Now, this whole business about it being lucrative seems odd, given that the Pharmacy Guild were more concerned about, quote, patients and health outcomes than profit, at least they were in 2009 when they were fighting a proposal for Big Supermarket to include pharmacies within their operations. Now, at the time, the Guild argued that supermarkets are legally obligated to put shareholders and profits first, whereas pharmacists care about patients and health outcomes. Whilst I wouldn't argue that pharmacists care about their patients, but the Guild not putting profits first? If it's not for the money, then please explain homeopathy, ear candles, naturopathy and iridology consults within pharmacies. So let's consider for a moment that the Guild does have the best interests of patients at heart and that there is good evidence to support a $15 bottle of coenzyme Q with your statins. So here is some of the evidence, or lack thereof, for these products working with these prescriptions. The Biotic Companion, which is designed to be given with antibiotics, contains the probiotic Lactobacillus reuteri and is designed to reduce antibiotic-associated bloating, flatulence and diarrhea. Now, while there is some evidence that certain probiotics may reduce the incidence of antibiotic-associated diarrhoea in some populations, their routine use is not recommended by medical authorities. And in immune-compromised patients, occasional cases of probiotic-associated bacteremia have occurred. The Anti-HT companion is designed to be given with antihypertensives and contains zinc gluconate. While there are occasional reports that antihypertensive therapies may lower zinc levels, I'm unaware of any independent medical authority that recommends routine zinc supplementation with antihypertensive therapy. The STAT companion is obviously designed to go with statins and contains coenzyme Q and vitamin D3. There is variable evidence that coenzyme Q and/or vitamin D is useful in treating statin-associated myopathy, and this is actually rare and usually only occurs in patients taking high doses of statins. So the routine use of coenzyme Q10 and vitamin D in statin-treated patients is not recommended by the medical community. So the PPI companion is designed to be used with proton pump inhibitors and contains magnesium. And while there are occasional reports of clinically significant magnesium deficiency occurring in patients receiving long-term PPI therapy, the remedy is usually to stop the PPI, not routine supplement them with magnesium. So in the fine print of the material provided by Blackmores, there's a statement that if a nutritional deficiency is suspected, pharmacists should refer customers to their GPs for further investigations. But it's likely that pharmacists already do this anyway, since it's part of their role as primary healthcare professionals to discuss the possibility of serious medication-related adverse events with their customers and refer them back to their GP for appropriate investigation when necessary. So what should not be a part of the role as trusted health professionals is pharmacists dishing out companion supplements as the fries and coke of prescriptions in order to give pharmacies a new and important revenue stream. This practice, first of all, lacks an evidence base, secondly, it's unethical, and thirdly, it unnecessarily adds to the medication burden, including the financial cost that many elderly patients already struggle with. Now, the response so far from the pharmacy community of Australia has been harsh. They are totally offended and insulted by this scheme, and many are calling for a total boycott of Blackmores products. There have also been calls from pharmacists to have the CEO of Blackmores fired for this insensitive and inappropriate comment that the supplements can be sold like Coke and fries. Now, the response so far from Marcus Blackmore, who's the head of Blackmores, has been that they do have evidence to support the use of these companion products with these particular prescriptions, but as yet, that evidence has not been seen by anybody. Certainly what I've just told you in this brief report does not support the routine use of these companion supplements. If you want to read about this, I wrote an article in collaboration with Dr. Ken Harvey, which was published on the Conversation website at theconversation.edu.au. My name does not appear in the article because my workplace has dealings with Blackmores. I also wrote a blog about this at theskepticsbook.com, and there's lots of discussion and has been lots of comments from pharmacists. So if you're interested in reading more, head to skepticsbook.com. And until next time, this has been Dr. Rachie Reports.
Now we bring you the Today Tonight report by our good friend reporter Frank Pangello, all about ear candles, in which you hear Dr. Rachie.
Now, poking a burning stick into your ear doesn't sound like a great idea, yet there are some natural therapists promoting this wacky practice using ear candles for health and well-being. Alarmed medical professionals say it's dangerous, yet as Frank Pangello reports, these quack remedies are still being sold by chemists who should know better than to stock unproven treatments.
An ear candle is made up of cotton or linen, and that's coated in paraffin or wax, and then it's rolled up when it's warm, allowed to harden, and then you put it into your ear and you burn the far end of it.
As far as health treatments go, this one is quite bizarre.
Some Native Americans use it as a form of ritual. It's a wonderful way to get rid of the excess wax and to help with sinus pressure or TMJ syndrome or migraine headaches.
I think they work. They don't hurt. You do feel a bit silly
lying there with a big candle stuck out of your ear, but definitely feels a lot clearer afterwards.
Ellie Chambers swears by ear candles. She regularly uses them to help unclog her ear canals of wax.
Definitely better than cotton buds. You're not poking and prodding around your ear, and it gets a lot more wax out.
There's no evidence in all of science to show that ear candles work.
But Dr Rachel Dunlop from the Australian Skeptics warns that ear candling is not only medically unproven, it's also dangerous.
This was shown in a study done in 1996 where patients were coming to see ear, nose and throat surgeons for things like burns from wax in their ears, perforated eardrums, and sometimes temporary deafness from hot wax dripping inside their ears.
It's the most infected.
What worries doctors and specialists are natural medicine therapists or ear canologists like this one who promote the myth that the practice actually does you some good.
An ear canologist is someone who can't be bothered getting a proper medical degree or a science degree and charge money to potentially put people at risk and danger by burning candles in their ears.
A process called convection, which is really the heat applied to the top of the candle, acts like a little mini vacuum, and it sucks the pollen, the yeast and the moistened earwax.
In fact, scientists have done experiments where they've placed the candles over a machine that measures a change in pressure, and there's no change in pressure, so that if there was a change in pressure, it would be so great it could burst your eardrum.
And one of the tricks used to fool people is showing them the waxy residue left at the end of the burning process.
Now, tests have been done on that residue, and in fact it's candle wax. It's not earwax, it's just a residue from the candle when it burnt.
There is, of course, inherent dangers in ear candling, including traumatising the external canals, traumatising the eardrum, and there have been cases reported of rupture of the eardrum.
In fact, having wax in your ears is a good thing, says Adelaide ear, nose and throat specialist Dr Síle Lane.
Most ears are generally self-cleansing, and there's really no need to put anything in the ears at all, other than, at most, the corner of a soft towel to clear the ear canal.
He warns against using ear candles and even the most widely used remedy, cotton-tipped buds.
Earbuds inserted will impact wax or cerumen into the deep portion of the ear canal. Moreover, it can do considerable damage to the outer ear, eardrum, and produce a significant hearing loss if one traumatises the ear with the use of earbuds.
Ear candles are banned in Canada, yet here they have the tick of approval from the Therapeutic Goods Authority, and you can readily buy them in many pharmacies. But Rachel Dunlop says quack therapies like these shouldn't be there at all.
Just because they sell is not an excuse to stock them. So if pharmacists start stocking cigarettes, is that okay too because they sell?
But if you're having ear problems, Dr Economos recommends you seek professional medical advice.
That one shouldn't put anything smaller than your elbow in your ear.
Well, we did try several times to contact the distributors of ear candles for a comment, but they didn't respond to our calls or emails.
Dr Rachel Dunlop is one of Australia's foremost media commentators in matters concerning so-called alternative medicine. She has appeared on national radio and national television. Dr Rachie is available for interviews, and you can contact her at rachel@skepticzone.tv.
AstronomyCast takes a facts-based journey through the cosmos as it offers listeners weekly discussions on astronomical topics ranging from planets to cosmology. Hosted by Fraser Kane of Universe Today and myself, Dr. Pamela Gay of Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, this show brings the questions of an avid astronomy lover directly to an astronomer. Together, Fraser and I explore what is known and being discovered about the universe around us. Join us each week as we take a facts-based journey through the cosmos at astronomycast.com.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone this week. Next week on the Skeptic Zone, And yet another mystery. Skeptics love mysteries. The only way to find out the answer to this mystery is to download the next episode. I'll be doing it, because just like you, I'd like to know what's coming up in next week's show. I hope it's interesting. Yeah. Until then, this is Richard Saunders thanking you once again for enjoying the Skeptic Zone, and all those people who contribute, thank you. Signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.